Hi everybody, welcome back once again to the Eastfield Gunroom YouTube channel. Once again, today's video is proudly sponsored by the British Shooting Show. We will be there in the middle of February at the NEC in Birmingham. So if you haven't already got your tickets, what are you waiting for? Thanks to everybody that's liked and subscribed to the channel so far. If you do like the videos and you haven't hit a like, give us a thumbs up, click the subscribe button because we do appreciate your support. So, interesting gun today. Now, this was a gun that someone made a comment on probably last year on one of the videos about this particular model being a bit of a flop from Beretta. So because I didn't really agree with that comment, I thought what I would do, I'd get one, I'd show it to you, and you can decide. So today we're going to look at the Beretta 692. Historically on this channel, we have looked at the 682 Super Sport, the 682 Gold E, and then right up to date with the 694. So this is the gun that fills in that missing part of the 69282 jigsaw puzzle. Right, now the 692 made a real big storm when it was first launched back in 2012. What it did is it replaced the 682 Gold E, which at that point had been out since pretty much 2000. It was getting a little bit stale. It needed a facelift. And what Beretta did is they culminated the technology that actually put in a gun a year before, which was the SV10, and produced their all singing, all dancing mid-range competition claybuster. Now, the 692, what Beretta did, they came with this USP. They actually went away from the kind of the slim action 680 series that they were renowned for, they were famous for, and they changed the whole balance of the gun. So what they did is they increased the width of the action, which of course changed the feel and the weight distribution. And what it did ultimately is it made for a gun that would, you know, the shooter could kind of manipulate a little bit better. So the 692 initially came out in a nickel action, which was like a white satin finish. It was very different to the previous model, the 682 Gold E, not dissimilar to kind of what the 694 is if you imagine it now without the blue. So when the gun was launched, it was initially available in sporting and trap specification, closely followed not long after by a skeet. And like I said, the whole idea was this was the mid-range competition gun. There was only an out-and-out competition gun. You couldn't buy a 20 gauge, you couldn't buy a game version. It was a gun that was dedicated to shooting clay targets. Yes, there are people that use them for other things, but ultimately on the drawing board, it was a competition gun. So the 692 Black, which is the gun we're going to look at today, came out a few years after the initial 692 Silver, we'll call it. And basically, that was an upgrade with a few different bits and pieces. I think it was about 2015 or 16 it came out, and it was a massive hit from the off because it was a gun that Beretta hadn't really manufactured anything with a black action for quite a number of years. You'd have to go back to the 682 Super Sport or probably the 682 Gold, which is a greystone finish, which again is a gun we've looked at on the channel. So to go kind of backwards, if you like, from the aesthetics point of view, it really stood out. So the gun I've chosen today in particular is a 692 Black Edition Trap. Now the 692 Black Edition was only available in sporting or trap, never in skeet, certainly not here in the UK. You could have a 28, 30 or 32 inch sporter, or you could have a 30 or 32 inch trap. So starting with the action, if I were to compare it to, like I said, the old 682 Gold E, you would see a noticeable difference just in the thickness of the receiver itself. Maybe that's an idea for another video. We can do a 682 versus 692 comparison, who knows. And we've got this really, really smart kind of satin black finish, matte finish. So 692 in gold with these accents, really smart. And then you've got brightly polished like black chrome hinge discs, which I thought, you know, really, really complemented the rest of the action well. And at the top of it, we've got Beretta, also in the same gold colour. Onto the underside, we've got the laurel leaves, the Olympic leaves, and we've got the Beretta Trident logo in the middle. I know a few people have contacted me prior to this and said, that's not the Trident logo, Beretta don't refer to it, they call it the three arrows. I'm not entirely sure. When I've asked at the factory before, they've said it was the Trident logo, but I'm back there in March, so I'll ask them again. And 692 underneath, again, it's understated, it's clean, it's crisp looking, it's what you'd expect from a premium kind of mid-range clay gun. Whilst we're on the underside, we have got the matte finish trigger guard, gloss, highly blued gloss trigger, which is nice, which is adjustable on the 3 position, very similar to a 694, in fact, identical to a 694 and identical to a 682 Gold E, because ultimately, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. When Beretta launched this gun, they did something quite radical. What they did is they went away from the traditional all steel or all cast kind of top lever design, and they actually put some rubber on it. And the idea behind that was to make it more ergonomically correct, if you like, to make it more comfortable for the shooter to open and close. It looks quite nice. It does exactly what it's designed to do. It's a nice, comfortable feeling when you open and close the gun. And also, if it's a cold day like it is today, it's January, it's freezing, the last thing you want is cold metal against your cold finger, making you feel a bit more dull. Now, with this being a trap gun, as all Beretta trap guns, the only exception I can actually think of is the older style DT10X 682 Gold EX, where you had a keeper screw so you can make it selective or non-selective. And of course, the current 694 DTL, which is fully selective. Other than that, all Beretta trap guns are non-selective triggers. They are set to fire the bottom barrel first, followed by the top. Just to finish off, on the top of the action, the breech where the barrels meet the face, we have got this typical Beretta kind of stippling. It wasn't the same on the Gold E, but I think it was certainly the same on the old 682 Gold with the Greystone action, which is a gun we have reviewed. Great gun. Do check that one out. And the whole idea with stippling is it's designed to kind of reduce any glare. And what you got to remember with matte finish barrels as well, there'll be no glare coming off this bad boy. Right, onto the barrels. And you'll notice straight away that the aesthetics of it, we have got matte finish once again to go with the matte action and the matte trigger guard and the matte backstrap, if you like. Now, there are quite a few differences with this over the previous models. So first of all, we'll start at the top. Now, this has actually got a carbon fiber rib. Now, it's 10mm parallel, it's ventilated on the top. Obviously, the main use of carbon fiber is to reduce the weight. It's exactly what Beretta's idea was. It was the same on the Sporter Black Edition, same on the Trap. They put the carbon fibre rib on the top to make it lighter. If, however, you decide that the barrels are too light and the gun's a little bit too whippy, what we've got here is we've got a set of fully magnetic, super clever at the time, super innovative barrel weights. Now, of course, the idea behind these is that you can add extra weight to the barrels. You can only actually add the weight where these weights are, which is underneath the fore end, which of course large is where you want to add the weight towards the front end. And the barrels are actually, the rib is actually pre-drilled to accept these weights. Now you get a series of 5 and 10 gram weights, and this was actually the first time that Beretta had ever used anything like this on a shotgun, and it was exclusive to the Black Edition. So with this being a trap gun, the bores are actually 18.4 tapered, so there is a little bit of boring, the back boring if you like, in the forcing cone, and of course they're fixed choke 3/4 and full. They were only available in fixed choke 3/4 and full. However, if you wanted to use this bit of everything, you could of course get the chokes reduced, get them eased, or get it T multi-choked. So what you've got here, we have got some nice engine turning, which is what we're used to seeing on modern day Berettas. But interestingly enough, what they did is they, again, more innovation from Beretta, and they are masters at it. They came away from the old 680 series ejector fitting, if you like. If you've got one, you'll know what I mean, when you push it in, twist it, and then the ejector ends up halfway across the kitchen when you're trying to clean it. What they cleverly did is they came up with this little magnets, and what they do is the magnet sits behind the ejector. You remove it with a magnetic stick and the ejector literally comes straight out to make it super easy for cleaning. Now this is a later gun which has got these on. The early 692s actually had a cam system in the fore end, but that proved to be a little bit unreliable, hence change from Beretta. This gun's got 1.520 kilogram barrels, or 1520, and again, whereas you expect it to probably be a little bit heavy with fixed choke trap barrels, you've got to remember it's got a carbon fiber rib, and that reduces the overall weight. To finish off, down here we've got a standard white Beretta bead. As with all Berettas, they are pre-drilled into the rib, so you can just replace them with a red one, a white one, a big one, a small one, some of the big as red. Every gun in the 692 range was ventilated rib and ventilated barrels. If you looked at the 692 Skeet, which is, I don't think we've looked at a Skeet gun yet, but of course there will be one coming up soon, so stay tuned for that. Usually with Olympic Skeet guns, they have a fully floating barrel, a little bit like the Kohler we looked at. This gun is actually steel shot proof, high performance steel shot proof, regardless of the choking. Obviously, if you did want to use high performance steel shot cartridge in it, you would have to have the choking done first. Barrel wings, slightly different shape to what they did with the 682. They made it a little bit more curvy on the top. Nice bit of engraving on the very rear of the breech. And just to finish off, we've got trap 2 3/4 inch, which is standard for Beretta because they usually have 18.4 nominal bores. So it says trap on the top of there. And just that we know that this is also a 32-inch gun. And as well as the 2 3/4 inch, it also mentions that it's 70mm, which is the same thing. This gun weighs 8 pounds 7 ounces. The 15-20 gram barrels obviously contribute to that. The fact that it's got the rib on makes it a little bit lighter. I would say if you had a silver action version of this without the carbon fiber rib, you're probably looking at about 3 or 4 ounces heavier. In terms of balance, bear in mind we've got a full complement of those barrel weights on at the minute. It's actually a little bit of tip in it, a little bit barrel heavy. If you want to, of course, reduce that, get hold of underneath the fore end, take your magnetic weights off, and away you go. Right, so onto the woodwork. Now, I picked this one because it's particularly striking. If you get a 692, or when you bought a 692, you would have class 2.5 woodwork, same as a 694. This, in my opinion, is much better. I'm a huge fan of guns that have black actions, that have lighter coloured stock, because I think they just really, really pop. This gun is no exception. We've got a nicely figured piece of European walnut, real nice line in the back here. I absolutely love that. Very, very highly figured, like a honey and black kind of style, because you can really, really see the lines. We've got a full palm swell. Now, one of the things you will notice if you get hold of a 692 Sporter, they were very, very skinny. Some people thought they were too skinny. So if you like the style of the 692, but you want that chunkier stock, go for a trap or get a trap stock. Laser checker in, microcore recoil pad at the back, stock dimensions with it being a trap gun. This one comes out at 32/42. So with a trap gun, you get much less drop than a Sporter. Typically, as a rule of thumb, 20mm drop for a Sporter, 10mm for a trap. Nice and chunky in the comb, and also alongside the barrel weight system, the magnetics, this has got the B-Fast facility, which we've seen many times now, but this was the first gun that ever had it, the 692. We now get it in DT11, 694, 688, and all that kind of stuff. The finish itself, kind of semi-satin, standard Beretta oil finish, which again, you don't want anything that's too shiny, but also you need it to be practical, whereby you can kind of enhance it and make it a bit more weatherproof, because if you're out in all weathers, you do need to treat your wood. Fore end, trap gun, standard gear, beaver tail, again laser checkered, and we've got a matte finish fore end iron to finish off. Interesting fact, when Beretta came up with the 690 series of guns, obviously this is the 692, they actually formulated this self-adjusting fore end system. So if you had a fore end that was a little bit too stiff or a little bit too slack, you could actually adjust it yourself without the need for taking it to a gunsmith. And that's what that big Boeing magic roundabout Zebedee spring is in there. So having shot a few of these over the years, the trigger pulls are good, the balance is good, they feel good. They're exactly what they're supposed to be. It's a mid-range competition gun. It was never meant to be a DT11. But one thing I would say is now the 692 is defunct. It was replaced by the 694 back in 2019 or 20. There's a lot of 692s available on the used market. They are a serious consideration. If you're starting shooting, you think, I'm going to buy myself a silver pigeon. From a shooting point of view, from a balance point of view, from a feel point of view, from a performance point of view, particularly with the Sporters, obviously you've got multi-chokes, it's a better gun than a basic silver pigeon. And arguably, you'll pay a lot less money than buying yourself a new silver pigeon. That's just my opinion. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Right, onto the box. I wonder what colour a 692 Black Edition box might be. Oh, it's black. So, good quality case, ABS Beretta case, huge logo on the top. Is it a Trident? Is it a 3 arrows? Who cares? Inside, we have a nice plush velour black interior. Again, really, really goes well with the guns. A lot of thought gone in here in terms of matching the case up with the gun. Yes, the case ends up in the loft 9 times out of 10, but, you know, from a presentation point of view, it does match well. Gold Beretta inside the case on this little pocket, which is where you can keep your book of words, save them rattling around. Nice touch. Here is the book of words and the guarantee bits and pieces. Quite interesting. It does talk about the self-adjusting fore end. If you've got a multi-choke, it talks about the different chokes, the different colour bands. Lots of information in there. It even covers the 692 X-Trap, which was a high rib trap version, in terms of adjusting the rib to change the point of impact to blah de blah de blah. Box of spare parts. Of course, typically we would expect to see a load of chokes, etc. We don't get it with this because it's a fixed choke trap gun, 3/4 and full. So inside we have got the screwdriver to adjust the trigger, 3-position trigger, remember that. We have got some additional stock weights, which is the B-Fast, which are here with the little screw to go in there. Currently there's none in the gun, which makes sense why it'd be a little bit barrel heavy with those barrel weights fitted. And then you've got a tube of Beretta oil. And of course the details to play with the combinations on the case should you wish to set it. You might be traveling abroad, staying away for a weekend, in a hotel shooting, who knows. And the reason I wanted to do this video is it was, like I said, someone claimed that it was a failure of Beretta. I don't believe the 692 was a failure. I believe it kind of paved the way for a lot of the technology we now see in the other guns, like the DT11 Black Edition, with the barrel weights, and of course the B-Fast is now pretty much across the range in terms of the stock weights. It also was one of the first guns to use microcore pads. It was the new magnetic ejector system, the rubber top lever. Sure, they might have fallen a bit flat in people's opinions in the last few years because, of course, the 694 is now out and it's completely replaced the gun, and it's an excellent gun. But these are still guns that are worth considering. Don't discount them. The only thing I would say is there's a lot of information on the internet. When manufacturers bring out a new gun, there's going to be teething problems. There was a few issues with firing, with the odd bit breaking in the fore end, with the top levers. Don't let that put you off. Everything was rectified towards the middle to end of production. But if you are going to buy one, I would personally avoid a very, very early one, because they weren't made by Beretta. They were made by Satin. And that's it. That's been the Beretta 692 Black Edition trap with me, Matthew Morgan from Eastfield Gunroom. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, do give us a like. Feel free to subscribe to the channel, because there's lots of stuff coming and you won't want to miss it. Don't forget to check out the website. Don't forget to come and see us at the British Shooting Show if you are there, because we will be attending that. And that's it from me. I'll see you again soon.